Once you've gotten to this page, that means you have already entered in all the information for your postcard. And this page is designed to help you know how to format your list. So this is just preparing you so that you can format the list, which it will be on the next screen. This first image right here, if you click on it, it will show you the format in which the list needs to be formatted. All the column headers need to be the same. They need to be in the same order as what you see here as well, and they can't be altered in any way. So if we go back, after you have read all of the information here and after you have also viewed this video that you're on, you can click this checkbox that says I have read and understand how to format my list, and click the next button. On this next screen, you will be uploading your list, but before we can do that, we need to have a list template to start from. So you can click on this link right here, which is download recipient list template. Save it to the location that you'd like to, and then navigate to it in your Internet, or not your Internet Explorer, your Windows Explorer window. Open it up inside of your spreadsheet file or program. And I'm just going to click on this to expand all of the columns here so you can see what they are. Just like in the image that was on the previous page, you've got your customer first name, customer last name, customer company name, customer address 1, customer address 2, customer city, customer state, and customer zip. And once more, you can't alter the orientation or the order of these columns, and you can't modify the names of these columns. Once we have that, then we can now open up our list that contains all of our data. And this list is a list that you will export from whatever software that you use that houses all of your recipients. And this list that I have here is actually just an example list, but it's a list I pulled from one of the other birthday card mailers that we did in the past. Now if we look at this list has about 311 recipients, and let's see here. And for some reason this list someone froze the top. Okay, so if we click on the very first record in the first column, which we can see that this is first and last name and they're combined in one column. The second column is your address 1 and address 2, and those are combined in one column. Then you've got your city, state, and zip. So what we're going to first want to do is separate the first and last name. So if you click on the very first record, you hold down Control, Shift, and down arrow. That will take you all the way to the bottom unless you have a gap where there's no name. It will take you to whatever the next gap is. So if there is a gap in there, then you just have to hit Control, Shift, down arrow one more time, or however many times until you get to the very bottom. Once you get down there, you can hit Control C, and down here there's a little icon so you can add another sheet to the spreadsheet. And then in the very first row and in column A, you can hit Control V, and what that will do is that will just paste in all of those first and last names like they were in the previous sheet. Now with everything still selected, you come up to Data and you go over to Text to Columns, and you choose Delimited. And what this is going to do is it's going to look for any spaces, since we know that there's a space in between the first and the last name. So you make sure you click on Delimited, click on Next. And this came up with tab being checked, so just uncheck everything except for space. And as you can see in the example below, is putting the the first name and the last name in separate columns. Just click on Next from there and click on Finish. So if we look at this, we've got first name in one column and last name in the other column. But if we come down a little bit further, you can see that the first name actually was made up of two names for this recipient. So Billy is actually Billy Joe, and so we can just put Joe over there. Right click on this column, click delete, and say shift cell to the left, and that will put the last name where it's supposed to be. And if we just keep on glancing, making sure everything else is correct, we can see that there's two more that have the same problem here. So we'll just put in their full first name, highlight the two Ann and Pat that are supposed to be in the first name column, and right click, delete, make sure shift cells to the left is selected, and hit OK. And that will put the last names in the correct column. If we just finish up, we can see that all of the names, first and last names, are in the correct columns. So now if we go all the way to the very top, click on row 1 in column A and shift click column B's, so just the two cells in row 1, and then hold down Control Shift down arrow. That will go all the way to the bottom of the list and select everything and hit Control C. Then we come over to our template list, and we can see that first name and last name are side by side, just like what we have here. And so just click on row 2 in column A, and then Control V will paste the first and last names all inside of that column, or in those two columns. If we go back to the other table here, we can see that there is no company name, so we can just skip company name in the recipient, or in the example, the template. And then let's move over here. So the next one we got is address 1 and address 2. Now coming back to this list, we can see that address 1 and address 2 are all in the same column. Just click on the very first record in column B, and then Control Shift down arrow, which will select everything to the bottom, and then Control C will copy it, and then you can come over to row 2, column D, which is customer address 1, and hit Control V, and that will paste all the addresses in the same order. Now, because we know that there's no address 2 in this list, we don't have to worry about it. We can just move over to customer city, and then come over here inside of your exported list and click on the city, and then shift or click the zip code, which will select the three columns inside of row 1. And then while that is selected, you can hit Control Shift down arrow, which will copy everything down to the bottom, those 3 columns. And since we know that this is city, this is state, and this is zip, it's in this order in this list as well. So we know that if we just come over here, actually I forgot to hit Control C on this list, and if we come back over here to our template, we can click on row 2, column F, which is customer city, and then just hit Control V, which will paste the city, state, and zip all the way down to the bottom in the correct order. So this is the exported list. We can just close out of that. We don't need to save that anymore. And if we just expand this, we can just look it over real quick before we save it. We can see that customer first name is in the first column. Customer last names are all in this the next column. We know that there was no company name, so we don't have to worry about it. Address 1, all of address 1 is in the address 1 column, but we also know that address 2 is combined in the previous list, so we can just keep it all there and not worry about it. And so we can keep address 2 blank. it won't matter if address 2 is blank. As long as address 1 is populated, then we should be just fine, as long as address 2 is included with address 1. And then we can check to see that the city is all in the correct column, the state's all in the correct column, and the zip is all in the correct column. So this is a list that is ready to upload. So we'll just come over here to File, go to Save As, and when you're saving out this list, we would like you to use best practices for naming conventions when you're naming your list. This is just a recommendation for myself, but we would like something that is similar, so that we can identify which list goes to which print piece. We would like to have some type of location identifier to go with the name of this list. So let's say my store is in Metropolis. I'll just put Metropolis here, and I'll just put a hyphen to separate Metropolis and recipient list. And maybe that will be fine just the way it is. We're going to save it in the folder that you want it to. Click Save. We can navigate now back to our recipient list upload page. Click on Choose File. Click on our list that we just created. Click Open. Now this list name is going to pull from what you named it in the Excel file. So really you can either leave this the way it is, or you can name it here how you want it to be named. What this name ends up being will be what we see on our end. So since I already used good practice for a naming convention for the list when I named the actual list itself, I'll just keep it the way it is. Then you can click Next, and it'll bring you to a screen that you probably haven't seen before yet. This is what your database or your recipient list turns into a database looks like. And you can just look at this list real quick, make sure that customer name is in, or first name is in first name and last name is in last name. Address 1, city, state, and zip are all in the correct columns. And you can just navigate through. It's only going to give you 10 at a time, so you can click on the next arrow or the number that you want to advance to. If you want to take a look at a proof real quick to see how it's going to look for that recipient, you can click on this little icon right here. It says Proof Document, which will bring up a proofing window. When your proof opens up, you can take a look at, make sure everything is formatted correctly, your correct information is where it's supposed to be, the address and the name of the individual is showing up correctly as well. Once you've made sure everything looks good, you can just click out of that. And then you can go through and you can take a look at whichever one you want and proof it. But once you've gone through the list and you've determined that everything looks good to go, then you can just click on the next button. And on this page, this will just show you that we're mailing this mailer. There were a total of 312 recipients on the list that was uploaded, and you can see that the printing price per postcard is 39 cents, and the total delivery price, or the postage, comes to $90.48, with a grand total of $212.16 for this project. If you felt like you needed to look at the proof one more time, you can click on that proof button, and it will bring up a proof for the first recipient on the list that was uploaded. Once you've determined that the proof is ready to go, you can click on Proof is Approved, and you click on Add to Cart, which then takes you to your shopping cart, and you can just take a look at, make sure that this is the correct product. You got your fan club birthday postcard bulk product. There were 312 recipients, and your total comes to $212.16. Once you determine that everything looks good here, you can either continue shopping and add more products to your cart, or you can click on Checkout. Once you click on Checkout, it brings you to your billing address screen. If you have multiple addresses saved on your account, you can click on this down arrow and you can select which billing address you want to be billed. If you don't have any address at all, then you can click on the Add button and you can add a billing address to the system, and it will save it into the system. Once you're done with that, you can click on Next. And this is your order confirmation screen right before you submit for payment. And so you can just look this over one more time, make sure this is all looking correct. Your postage was $90.48, your taxes for this project. And the reason why there's taxes showing up here is because of my billing address was in Idaho, and Idaho and Utah are the only states that are being taxed. So my grand total was $219.46. Once I determine everything looks good there, then I can just hit this checkout button, which will then take me to the PayPal payment screen.